Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fund It Fast Chat. I'm Rochelle Butler. I am the Energy Manager with the San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, and I hope everyone is enjoying a great week. We will get going momentarily, but first, let's take care of our housekeeping, get that out of the way. Please make note, all of your microphones have been muted upon joining the call. This is simply to minimize background noise. As always, if you have any questions at all, or comments for that matter, I encourage you to go ahead and submit them using the chat box. You may do so at any point during the presentation, and we'll be sure to save some time at the end to address those questions. Next, I would like to invite everyone to go ahead and connect with us. You may do so on any one of many platforms. You can find us on Twitter, on Instagram, or Spotify. Or you can just reach out the old-fashioned way via email or by telephone, whichever is your preference. And if you didn't quite get all of that, do not worry. Just remember, you can access any of our resources by going to our website. That's at sjvcleanenergy.org. One more time, that's sjvcleanenergy.org. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump right on in. For those of you who are regulars at the Fund It Fast Chat, you know we like to take a really quick moment and talk about related topics. These are topics that we've covered in the past that kind of tie into the topic of the current month. So because this month's topic is a community-focused grant program, I do want to point out other community-focused grant-type programs that we've covered in the past. We have Fund It Fast Chat number 20, where we covered EPIC grants. Fast Chat number 29, where we discussed Connected Communities, that grant program, and also Fast Chat number 42, which was the Equitable Community Revitalization Grant Program. So when you have a moment, please go and check them out. There's a lot of really good information there. While you're over there checking out our YouTube page, please don't be shy. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. In all transparency, it does help us out a ton when you do this, but more importantly than that, it helps other folks just like yourself to find our content. All right, so the Regional Climate Collaboratives. This is a capacity building grant program for under-resourced communities that enables cross-sectoral partners to deepen their relationships and to develop processes, plans, and projects that will drive and sustain climate action. So I did pull that description directly from their website, but what exactly does all of that wording mean? To paint a little bit of a better picture for you, here's a little bit of background on the RCC. The Regional Climate Collaboratives, or RCC for short, it's part of the state of California's climate budget, which is SB 170. SB 170 funds ambitious measures to build climate adaptation and resilience through planning, research, capacity building, restoration, and sustainable infrastructure. So Senate Bill 1072 actually established the RCC program within the California Strategic Growth Council, or SGC for short, a lot of acronyms here, in order to create and to support existing climate action collaboratives across the state that will assist under-resourced communities in accessing funding for climate change mitigation and adaptation projects. So basically, the purpose of all of this legislation is to take into account that under-resourced communities often don't have the capacity to face climate-related challenges and also face challenges accessing state funding to address community priorities. This legislation also recognizes the need for technical assistance resources in these communities to ensure that all communities have the same opportunities to achieve their climate and equity goals. This legislation seeks to enable cross-sectoral partners to deepen relationships and strengthen local coordination, leadership, knowledge, skills, and access to critical resources to drive and sustain climate action. Another important point of background here is that the legislation establishing the RCC was actually passed back in 2018. However, the California Strategic Growth Council did not receive funding for the program until 2021. In the interim, during that kind of gap of time, the SGC staff sought out to get stakeholder feedback through listening sessions from organizations across the state in under-resourced communities and that serve under-resourced communities on how they can best serve the needs of their communities through the program. So there was a lot of community feedback and community input on the implementation of the program. All right, going along with some of the overarching goals of the program, there is also a vision and objectives. So first, the vision for racial equity says that SGC is committed to achieving racial equity in its operations, investments, and policy initiatives, and to achieving their vision that all people in California live in healthy, thriving, and resilient communities regardless of race. The program objectives are kind of built into the RCC program activities and are designed to build the capacity of under-resourced communities within the region to secure funding for climate action mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. Applicants must ensure that these program objectives are addressed in their proposal. So develop actionable plans and projects. So specifically, they want to see activities that lead to the development of climate action mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. Projects that can be implemented if project funding is secured. Activities will build the local network capacity necessary for collaborative members to develop competitive grant proposals. Build social infrastructure. Applicants will need to demonstrate how their proposed activities will build enduring and trusting relationships across members of the collaborative, residents, and other stakeholder groups, and how the grant will be used to support this. Center community engagement and decision-making. This is kind of a big one. Direct engagement with the community and other stakeholders is the focus of this objective. So they want to see that residents and other key stakeholders are involved in the process and involved in the decision-making process. The last one here, develop equity-centered processes. Applicants must be able to show how the proposed activities will develop and improve local processes for under-resourced community residents, community-based organizations, and also tribes. So let's talk about eligibility, specifically who is eligible to apply and what communities are eligible to participate. The list of eligible applicants is broad and includes just about everyone. California Native American tribes is on that list, community-based organizations, JPAs, and local governments are also on that list. Nonprofit organizations are also included on the list, but with the caveat that they must have a proven track record of providing technical assistance and community-based outreach. Now, I know I've kind of been tossing around the term under-resourced quite a bit. You may be wondering how this is determined and who is included under that term, under-resourced. Well, for the purposes of this grant program, under-resourced is identified pursuant to Section 39711 of the Health and Safety Code, which includes census tracts identified as disadvantaged by the California Environmental Protection Agency, or census tracts with median household income at or below 80% of the statewide median income. So that's how they come up with the designation of under-resourced. All right, let's talk about funding. In fiscal year 2021-2022, which is the current cycle now, the SGC received a $10 million general fund appropriation to administer the program through the provision of grants, staff support, and third-party technical assistance. The program will fund multiple collaboratives with award amounts ranging from $500,000 all the way up to $1.75 million. The program will fund those collaboratives for 3-year grant terms. And I would just like to point out that although the deadline is quickly approaching, this is just round one. So there will be multiple rounds, and there will be other opportunities to participate and submit a competitive bid should you choose to do so. So more on that momentarily. All right, let's discuss the timeline. So I like to do this, although a lot of these dates have passed, I kind of want everyone to get an idea of, once this rolls out again in future years, what the process kind of looks like and what to expect. So if you are unable to get your application going by the upcoming due date, you can begin planning for the 2022-23 fiscal year cycle. Now, the final round 1 RCC program guidelines were adopted on April 28, 2022. These guidelines lay out all the rules for the upcoming year and in a lot more detail, and lets potential applicants know what to expect for the application process. Be on the lookout for these guidelines because they kind of signal the kickoff for the upcoming program application process. On May 11th, 2022, the official Notice of Funding Availability, or NOFA, some of you may be more familiar with it as NOFA for short, that was released on May 11th, as I said. May 18th, 2022, they held a webinar to walk everyone through the program guidelines in the application process. So the idea behind that was to kind of answer, any questions or provide clarification on anything anyone may be unclear about. June 8th through June 10th, they held sector-specific application workshops and networking sessions. I say sector-specific because there was one that was focused on unincorporated and rural communities, and there was one that was focused on tribal communities, and one that was focused on the general audience. So they kind of try to tilt it toward the applicant's specific sector, if you will. Next, on July 15th, the application pre-proposals were due. Now, this step was not required of potential applicants. However, it is usually a good idea to submit a pre-application so that you get that valuable feedback from the SGC staff. Finally, all applications for this fiscal year are due on October 7th, 2022, which is right around the corner. I have said this a couple of times now. This is a multi-year program, so if you miss the opportunity this year, don't worry. Start planning for the next fiscal cycle. Lastly, the Round 1 RCC awards will be adopted by Council on December 15th. So that's when we'll start learning who's been awarded the funding. And then in spring 2023, those updated guidelines will be out and we'll start that cycle all over again. So I look forward to that. All right, so eligible activities. So since this is the first round of the funding, there aren't really like any examples or case studies, if you will, that I could point to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like in action. However, there is a listing of activities, both mandatory and optional, that they have outlined for the program. Now, I won't go through each one of these in detail, just in the interest of time, but I just want to point out like the first couple of ones. Build relationships, identify priorities, and develop plans, policies, and projects. That's the first under mandatory. Of course, the mandatory list is much longer than the optional list. This activity includes things like coordinating members of the collaboratives to build relationships across organizations and define shared values, vision, and principles of how to work together, supporting the development of partnerships between stakeholders and private, public, and philanthropic funding sources. Items under supplement program-specific technical assistance include conducting outreach and building awareness of competitive grant programs, providing policy, program, and technical assistance. And as you can see, evaluate project implementation, engage in peer-to-peer learning is also included in that mandatory category. And optional is the data collection and analysis to kind of gauge how the program is doing and those types of metrics, and education and training. So those are some of the activities, if you will, that are included in the program. Now, the last thing that I wanted to point out is the technical assistance component. Now, I've mentioned technical assistance throughout the presentation. However, there are two distinct types of technical assistance, and so I just wanted to make sure that I differentiate between the two. There is the technical assistance that is included as part of the program activities, such as program implementation and project management. Those are required of grant proposals. However, there is technical assistance that is provided as part of the capacity building component of the program. This technical assistance is provided by the Strategic Growth Council and their third-party technical assistance teams to assist collaboratives with items such as application assistance and implementation assistance. Applicants can receive support to develop competitive proposals, as well as assistance throughout their 3-year grant term once they've been awarded. Now, they are very careful to point out, though, that receiving technical assistance will not guarantee that an applicant will be selected to receive an award in the competitive process. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. All right, and that is what I have on the Regional Climate Collaborative for now. So I'm going to pause here for questions. Once again, if you have any questions, I see some activity in the chat box now. Please take a few seconds, drop those questions in the chat box if you haven't done so already. And while folks are working on that, I just want to remind everyone to please look out for our email after the call, our follow-up email after the call today. That email will have links to all of the related fast chats that I mentioned at the top of the presentation, so you don't have to go searching all over for them. That email will also have links to important resources and information that I referenced during the presentation. And lastly, take a quick second, add us to your email contacts. We want to be sure that you are receiving our communications so you can stay up to date on what is going on around the partnership. That email is info@sjvcleanenergy.org. One more time, info@sjvcleanenergy.org. And now I'm going to take a quick peek at our chat box and see what's going on. Let's see. Okay, I have one question from Pam asks, can you provide the link to the map so we can ensure our region is eligible? Absolutely, Pam. Yeah, and I see that's been answered already. That link is going to be in the resources email after the call today. And I don't see any more questions, so hopefully that means everything else was crystal clear. If not, you know how to get a hold of us and ask follow-up questions. We're always available for you for that. All right, so when is our next Funded Fast Chat? Our next Fast Chat will be on October 11th. I hope you will join us for that Fast Chat. We have some really exciting things coming up in the pipeline. We're just making some last-minute confirmations, but we will follow up with you on upcoming topics in the coming days. Of course, I hope to see you all for every episode of the Funded Fast Chat, but if you can't make it for whatever reason, please just remember all Funded Fast Chats are recorded and can be accessed through our website or by going directly to our page on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button while you're over there. As always, thank you all for joining us this morning. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope you all stay safe and stay healthy. Until next time.